He had spent 52 years building an empire of concrete and steel, but his heart had been empty since he lost Lucia, the only true love of his life. He walked the streets of Malaga like a rich man who had nothing, until his eyes landed on a yellowed poster stuck to a post. A missing girl, 12 years old, green eyes identical to his own, a dimple when she smiled, exactly in the same place, and in that instant he knew the truth that broke his soul. He had a daughter he never knew existed, and now she was lost in some dark place in the city. Time stopped, his life changed forever, and the most desperate search of his existence began. Like this, if it touched your soul, it's more than a click, it's a silent hug between those who know what it is to lose. Comment how you think this story will end, and if you haven't subscribed yet, it costs you nothing, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you for being here. The heat of August in New York City weighed on the city like a damp blanket. The streets of Midtown boiled under the 3 o'clock sun, and most businesses had pulled down their metal shutters, waiting for the worst of the day to pass. Daniel Sterling walked along the sidewalk with a firm step, dressed in an impeccable grey suit that contrasted with the informal summer atmosphere. His driver followed 3 steps behind, carrying a black leather briefcase. Daniel had built his empire from scratch. Real estate developer, investor, occasional philanthropist when the cameras required it. At 52, he owned half of the Hamptons coastline and was respected or feared in all circles of power. His face appeared in business magazines. His name opened doors that remained closed for others. He had everything money could buy: properties, art, influence, but he had no family. He had never married. The relationships he had were brief, transactional, empty. There was always a part of him that remained distant, as if waiting for something or someone who never arrived. That afternoon, while crossing Central Park South heading to a meeting with the mayor, something stopped him cold. A lamppost, paper stuck with adhesive tape. The wind tore at the corners, making the sheet tremble like a flag of surrender. Missing. The word was written in red, large, desperate letters. Below, a photograph. A 12-year-old girl, brown hair with golden highlights, green eyes, intense, bright even in the poor quality of the print. A slight smile on her lips, timid but genuine. And, to the left of her mouth, a small dimple that showed when she smiled. Daniel's world stopped. It was not a rational thought. It was visceral, like a punch to the chest that took his breath away. He knew that face. Not the girl, but the features. The shape of the eyes, the tilt of the smile, that exact dimple in the same place. He had seen them before, in a mirror, every morning for 52 years, and he had also seen them on another face, a long time ago. A face he loved with youthful intensity, and lost without explanation. Sarah. The name resonated in his mind like an echo from another life. Sarah Miller. The only woman who made him feel that there was something beyond success and money. They met when he was just starting out, when his hands were still dirty with cement and his pockets were empty. She was a medical student, brilliant, warm, with a laugh that lit up entire rooms. They dated for 2 intense, passionate years. They talked about the future, about shared dreams. But one night, after an argument about his priorities, he obsessed with succeeding, she asking for more time together, Sarah disappeared. She left college, changed her number. Her family told Daniel she had moved to Boston, that she didn't want anything to do with him. He searched for her for months, but eventually had to accept that she had erased him from her life. He never knew why. Now, 30 years later, he looked at that girl's face and understood. Sarah was pregnant when she left, and she never told him. "Mr. Sterling," his driver's voice pulled him out of the trance. "Are you all right?" Daniel did not answer. His eyes remained glued to the photograph. The letters below the face read, Clara Miller, 12 years old, missing since August 3rd. Last seen near the Chelsea Market. There was a phone number, a plea in capital letters, "Please help us find her." The noise of the street suddenly returned, sirens in the distance, people running, reporters with cameras, a group of police officers, cordoned off an area near the market. Daniel walked there as if hypnotized, forgetting his meeting, his driver, everything. A woman was crying, leaning against a patrol car. She looked about 40, dark hair pulled back in a messy ponytail, simple clothes. Her eyes were red, swollen, desperate. She was speaking hurriedly with a detective who was taking notes. "We already checked the market, Miss Martinez," the officer said with a tired voice. "We have questioned all the vendors. No one saw anything suspicious." "My daughter doesn't just disappear," the woman yelled, her voice breaking. "She has to be somewhere. Clara wouldn't leave alone." Daniel approached, pushing his way through onlookers and reporters. The detective immediately recognized him and frowned. "Mr. Sterling, this is a police investigation. This is no time for—" "I can help," Daniel interrupted, his voice surprisingly firm for someone whose world had just turned upside down. "I know this area better than anyone. I finance the restoration of several buildings here. There are places you don't know about." The woman, Isabel, as he had heard, looked at him with pleading eyes. "Can you find her?" Daniel felt something tear inside him. He couldn't tell her the truth. Not yet. He wasn't even sure it was the truth, but those green eyes in the photograph— "I'm going to try," he said, and it sounded like a sacred promise. The NYPD 3rd Precinct in the downtown district was crowded, telephones ringing, overlapping voices, the smell of old coffee and sweat, mixing in the insufficient air conditioning. Isabel Martinez was sitting on a plastic chair, staring into space, twisting a handkerchief between her fingers until the fabric threatened to tear. Daniel watched from the doorframe. He had insisted on accompanying her to file the official report, although they had already been searching for more than 24 hours. Detective Ramirez, a 60-year-old man with a receding hairline and deep dark circles, did not seem particularly optimistic. "Ms. Martinez," he said, flipping through the documents, "I need you to tell me exactly what happened yesterday." Isabel swallowed. Her voice came out raspy, tired from crying. "Clara left the apartment at 9 in the morning. She was going to buy bread at the market like she does every Saturday. I gave her $10. I told her to come back before 10 because we had to go to the doctor." Her voice broke. "She never arrived. Did she call anyone? Friends? Relatives?" "She doesn't have a cell phone. I can't afford it," Isabel admitted, lowering her gaze in shame. "And no, she didn't go to any friend's house. I already called everyone. No one knows anything." Daniel felt a pang in his chest. His presumed daughter lived in a reality completely foreign to his own. No cell phone, no luxuries. A mother who worked as a cleaner in 3 different houses to make ends meet. Meanwhile, he had 5 cars he barely used. "The girl's father?" the detective asked, and Daniel tensed. Isabel looked at him directly for the first time. There was something in her eyes, a mixture of pain and secrecy. "He's not in her life," she replied, sharp. "He never was." The detective sighed and closed the folder. "All right. We have her photograph in all the media. We have alerted hospitals, train stations, and bus depots. If anyone sees her, they will let us know. But Ms. Martinez, I have to be honest with you. After the first 24 hours, the chances—" "No." Isabel stood up, abruptly. "Don't tell me that. My daughter is alive, I know it." Daniel intervened before the detective could respond. "There are places you haven't checked." Ramirez looked at him skeptically. "Mr. Sterling, with all due respect, this is a police investigation. We don't need tourists playing detective." "I'm not a tourist," Daniel replied coldly. "I'm the man who built half of this neighborhood, and there are tunnels, basements, and old passages that don't even appear on the municipal maps. Places where a scared girl could hide, or where someone could have taken her." Silence fell like a heavy stone. Isabel clung to Daniel's arm with desperate strength. "Please," she whispered, "if you know anything, anything at all, save her." Daniel looked into her eyes and saw the same intense green as the photograph, the same green he saw in the mirror every morning. "I'm going to find her," he said, with a conviction he didn't know he had. "I promise you." Daniel didn't sleep that night. Sitting in his mahogany and glass office overlooking the illuminated Manhattan harbor, he held an old photograph in his hands, an image from 30 years ago, he and Sarah on the beach, hugging, laughing. She wore a white dress that the wind pressed against her body, and he looked at her as if she were the only real thing in the world. "Why did you leave?" he thought. "Why didn't you tell me you were pregnant?" But he knew the answer. Back then he was a workaholic, always absent, always chasing the next contract, the next opportunity. They argued constantly. Sarah told him he was losing his humanity, that money was consuming him, and she was right. She probably thought he wouldn't want the baby, or worse, that he would ask her to have an abortion so as not to interrupt his plans. So she made the decision for both of them and disappeared. Daniel closed his eyes, feeling the weight of 3 decades of involuntary absence. He had been a father for 12 years without knowing it. He had missed the first cry, the first steps, the first words. He wasn't there when Clara was afraid in the dark, when she got sick, when she needed strong arms to protect her. And now, when he finally knew of her existence, she was missing. The phone rang. It was his personal assistant, Martha. "Mr. Sterling, I got the information you requested." "Tell me." "Sarah Miller passed away 5 years ago. Pancreatic cancer. She left a 7-year-old daughter in the care of her sister, Isabel Martinez. The girl's name is Clara Miller Martinez. She was born on April 15th, 12 years ago." Daniel did quick mental math. 9 months after Sarah disappeared. There was no doubt. "Anything else?" "Isabel works as a domestic employee. They live in a small apartment in the Lower East Side neighborhood. Economic struggles, but no serious debts. The girl is a good student, quiet, no behavioral problems. From what I could find out, she's a normal girl who was his daughter, and who was now lost somewhere in the city." Daniel hung up and dialed another number. "Javier, it's me. I need you to gather your team. We're going to comb every square foot of the downtown area and bring old maps of the area from before the renovation, the ones we keep in the archive." His construction manager responded without hesitation. "I'll be there in 20 minutes. Daniel got up, changed his suit for more practical clothes, dark pants, work shirt, sturdy boots, and left his mansion just as the first glimmer of dawn touched the horizon. If Clara was hiding in one of those forgotten underground labyrinths, he would find her, even if he had to demolish the entire city to do it. The sun had barely risen when Daniel and his team met in Foley Square. 5 men with industrial flashlights, old maps spread out on the hood of a truck, and a determination that was contagious, even to the police officers on guard. Detective Ramirez arrived shortly after, with 2 agents and a face that clearly said he considered this a waste of time. "Mr. Sterling, we already checked all the commercial basements. There's nothing." "You didn't check these," Daniel replied, pointing to a series of dotted lines on the map. "They are colonial-era drainage tunnels. Most were sealed during the neighborhood renovation, but some have accesses that were never completely blocked." Isabel arrived running, with deep dark circles and wrinkled clothes. It was obvious that she hadn't slept either. "Do you really think she could be down there?" Daniel looked at her with an intensity that made her take a step back. He stopped, correcting himself. If a scared girl was looking for a place to hide, or if someone wanted to hide her where no one could find her, these tunnels would be perfect. They are forgotten. No one checks them. Some have natural ventilation. They are dark, damp, but habitable. "And how do you know so much about them?" Ramirez asked suspiciously. "Because when we bought these buildings for renovation, we found 3 of these accesses. I documented everything. The plans are in my archives, and one of them," he traced a line with his finger, "is exactly here, 2 blocks from the market." The group moved into formation, Daniel in front with Isabel glued to his side. They arrived at a narrow alley between 2 old buildings, where the sun barely reached even at noon. The walls were covered with faded graffiti, and the smell of dampness and garbage was pervasive. At the back, half hidden by stacked cardboard boxes and rubble, was a rusty iron door with a padlock that was once strong but now hung broken, as if someone had recently forced it open. Daniel felt his heart accelerate. "Here." He pushed the boxes aside and pulled on the door. The metal screeched with a sharp groan that echoed in the alley like the cry of a ghost. A smell of wet earth and stagnant air poured out of the darkness. "Clara," Isabel called, her voice breaking. Silence. Daniel turned on his flashlight and descended the first stone steps. The tunnel stretched forward with walls of old brick covered with moss and dampness. The floor was uneven, with puddles of water in the lowest spots. "Clara," Daniel called, and this time his voice had something different. It was not the voice of a businessman. It was the voice of a father. "If you're here, little one, don't be afraid. No one is going to hurt you. We are here to take you home." A sound, slight, a choked sob. Daniel ran, his flashlight bouncing against the walls, splashing puddles tripping over loose stones. The tunnel turned left, then right. There were old boxes, abandoned furniture, remnants of what was once municipal storage. And then he saw her, curled up behind a rusty metal cart, hugging her knees, trembling like a leaf in a storm. Clara. Her green eyes, those eyes that were exactly like his, looked at him with terror. but also with something akin to recognition, as if an ancestral part of her soul knew who he was. "Clara?" Daniel knelt down, slowly placing the flashlight on the ground so as not to scare her more. "It's me. I came for you. Your mother is upstairs waiting for you. We are all waiting for you." The girl did not move. Her lips trembled, trying to form words that wouldn't come out. "I'm not going to hurt you," Daniel continued, slowly extending his hand. "No one else is going to hurt you, I promise. But you have to trust me, okay? You have to let me take you home. 1 second, 2, 3. And then Clara extended her small, dirty, trembling hand and put it in Daniel's. The contact was like electricity, as if 30 years of absence were compressed into that single point of connection. Daniel carefully lifted her, and Clara, instead of pulling away, clung to him with desperate strength, burying her face in his chest and sobbing with her whole body. "It's over," he murmured, stroking her dirty hair. "It's over. You're safe. No one will ever hurt you again." As he walked back towards the light, with Clara in his arms, Daniel felt something he had never felt in his entire life of power and wealth. He felt he had a purpose. The sunlight blinded Clara when they emerged from the tunnel. Isabel screamed and ran towards them, practically tearing her daughter from Daniel's arms and pressing her against her chest as if she wanted to merge with her. "My girl! My girl!" she sobbed over and over, kissing her head, her forehead, her cheeks. "Are you hurt? Did they do anything to you? Tell me, please." Clara shook her head, still trembling, still speechless. Paramedics approached with a thermal blanket and a first aid kit, but the girl didn't want to let go of her mother. Detective Ramirez watched the scene with evident relief, already speaking into his radio to cancel the alert. "We're going to need the girl to make a statement when she feels better," he said. "We need to know if someone took her there, or if—" "Later," Isabel cut in firmly. "Now she needs a doctor, food, a bath, and sleep. Everything else can—" "Wait." Daniel stood at a distance, watching. He should feel good. He had found the girl. He had done the right thing, but a part of him felt empty, as if he had just lost something he didn't even know he had. Clara looked for him over her mother's shoulder. Their eyes met, and then something strange happened. The girl reached out her hand towards him. "He," she said in a hoarse voice, the first words she spoke. "He found me." Isabel turned, looking at Daniel with an unreadable expression. "I know, my love, and we are very grateful to him." But Clara shook her head. "No, Mom, he—" She swallowed, her eyes filling with new tears. "Why does he have my eyes?" Silence fell like a bomb. The paramedics stopped. The police officers stopped talking. The detective frowned, confused. Isabel turned pale. Daniel felt the ground move beneath his feet. "Clara, don't!" Isabel started, but her voice failed. "His eyes, Mom," Clara insisted, now looking directly at Daniel. "They're the same as mine. Exactly the same. And he has the same mark here." She pointed to her own left cheek where she had a small lentil-sized mole. Daniel instinctively raised his hand and touched his own mole in the exact same place. Isabel closed her eyes, defeated. "Because—" Her voice was barely a whisper, but in the tense silence of the alley everyone heard her. "Because he is your father, Clara." The world stopped. Clara looked at Daniel. Daniel looked at Clara. Isabel looked at both of them, crying now for completely different reasons. "My father?" Clara's voice was small, fragile, as if she feared the answer might break. "Really?" Daniel knelt down in front of her, ignoring everyone else. His voice broke. "I didn't know, little one. I didn't know you existed. If I had known, I would have been there every day, I swear to you." Clara watched him for a long moment. And then she did something none of the adults expected. She let go of her mother and threw herself into Daniel's arms. "I knew it," she murmured, against his chest. "When you took me out of the darkness, I knew it. I knew it was you." Daniel hugged her, and for the first time in 52 years, he cried. St. Raphael Hospital was quiet that afternoon. Clara had been admitted for observation, mainly for dehydration and shock, but she was physically fine. There were no signs of abuse or severe physical trauma. As she timidly told the child psychologist, she had hidden in the tunnel after fleeing from a man who tried to grab her at the market. She had stayed there, terrified, for almost 2 days, drinking water from puddles and crying silently. Daniel was sitting on an uncomfortable chair next to the hospital bed, watching Clara sleep. Isabel was on the other side, holding her daughter's hand. The silence between the two adults was thick, loaded with 30 years of secrets and unspoken words. "You should have told me," Daniel finally said, without taking his eyes off Clara. Isabel didn't answer immediately. When she did, her voice was full of bitterness and regret. "Sarah loved you, more than you probably deserve to know, but you were obsessed with your company, with your money, with your success. There was no room for anything else, for anyone else." Daniel clenched his fists. "I had the right to know." "Did you really?" Isabel looked at him harshly. "What would you have done? Would you have dropped everything to be a father, or would you have convinced Sarah that a baby would ruin your plans? She knew you, Daniel. She knew you better than you knew yourself, and she knew you weren't ready." The words hurt because they were true. "I could have changed," he said weakly. "Maybe, but she couldn't risk it. So she left. She quit college, cut all ties with you, and moved in with me. I helped her raise Clara. The three of us lived together until Sarah," her voice broke, "until the cancer took her away. Why didn't you contact me then, when she died?" "Because I made a promise. Sarah made me swear I would. Never tell you anything about Clara, that I would protect her from your world, from money, from ambition, from everything that drove her away from you." Daniel felt something breaking inside him. That world you despised so much is the one that could have saved Clara faster, the one that is now going to pay for the best therapy, the best education, everything she needs. "She doesn't need your money," Isabel countered. "She needs a father who is present, and that cannot be bought." Clara moved in the bed, mumbling something in her sleep. Both adults immediately fell silent, leaning towards her. "Dad," Clara whispered, without waking up. "Don't go." Daniel closed his eyes, feeling a lump in his throat. Isabel looked at him for a long moment. "She has already accepted you," she said softly. "Now it's up to you not to disappoint her." It was a warning, but also an offering of peace. A week later, Clara was discharged. The police had arrested the man who tried to kidnap her, a petty criminal with a history of harassment. The case was closed, but Clara's emotional wounds were just beginning to heal. Daniel had made a decision. He cancelled all his meetings, postponed his projects, and dedicated every hour of every day to being with Clara. At first, Isabel was reluctant, but eventually she accepted that Clara needed to know her father. The first visits were awkward. Daniel didn't know how to talk to a 12-year-old girl. What did she like? What made her laugh? How do you build a bond that should have existed from day one? He started by taking her to luxurious places, expensive restaurants, designer clothing stores, the VIP cinema. But Clara felt uncomfortable, out of place, looking at everything with wide, scared eyes. "You don't have to impress her," Isabel told him one afternoon while Clara was napping. "You just have to get to know her." "I don't know how," Daniel admitted, feeling vulnerable in a way he hated. Isabel sighed. "Ask her what she likes. Listen to her. Sit on the floor, with her if necessary. Don't be a businessman, Daniel, be a father." So he changed his strategy. The next time he visited the small apartment where they lived, he brought a box of colored pencils, watercolors, and sketchbooks. "Your mother told me you like to draw," he said, sitting on the floor next to Clara. The girl looked at him with surprise, as if she couldn't believe that this impeccably suited man was sitting on the worn linoleum of her living room. "Yes," she replied timidly. "Will you show me?" Clara hesitated, but eventually opened one of her old notebooks. The pages were full of drawings, landscapes, flowers, birds, and many portraits of a beautiful young woman with a warm smile. "It's my mom," Clara explained, touching one of the drawings affectionately. "Mom Sarah, the real one, the one who is no longer here." Daniel felt his throat close up. "She was beautiful. Aunt Isabel says I look like her." "You do look like her," Daniel confirmed, "but you also look like me." Clara looked at him, studying his face with childish intensity. "Do you draw too?" "No, but I can try." And so, sitting on the floor, sharing a notebook, they began to build something new. Clara drew flowers. Daniel drew crooked circles that pretended to be flowers. Clara laughed. Daniel did too, and for the first time since he found her, Clara truly smiled. But not everything was drawings and laughter. The nights were a battlefield. Clara woke up screaming, drenched in sweat, fighting invisible shadows. Isabel cradled her for hours, singing the same songs that Sarah used to sing, but some nights nothing worked. Daniel was at his house when he received the call. 3 in the morning. Isabel, exhausted, on the verge of collapse. "I can't do this anymore," she admitted, crying. "She hasn't slept for 4 nights in a row. I don't sleep either. I'm going to lose my job, Daniel. I can't go on like this." 20 minutes later, Daniel was knocking on the apartment door. Isabel received him with deep, dark circles and exhausted gratitude. Clara was huddled on the sofa, trembling, her eyes wide open in the dark. "Hi, little one," Daniel said softly, sitting next to her. Clara looked at him, and something in her expression softened. "I'm scared. I know. I can't sleep. When I close my eyes, I see the tunnel, the man, the darkness." Daniel wrapped her in a blanket. "Do you know what I did when I was scared as a kid?" Clara shook her head. "I counted good things, one by one. Like cheap, but better. Things that made me happy. Do you want to try?" Clara hesitated, but nodded. "Okay, I'll start," Daniel said. 1. You have Aunt Isabel, who loves you more than anything in the world. Clara smiled weakly. 2. You have a beautiful collection of drawings that you could exhibit in a gallery someday. A bigger smile. 3. You have a father who just discovered he exists and who would do anything to protect you. Clara snuggled up against him. 4. She whispered. I have a dad who knows how to count good things. Daniel felt his heart melt. He cradled her in his arms, and this time, when he started humming a song he didn't know he remembered, Clara closed her eyes, and she slept. The months that followed were a delicate dance of trust-building. Daniel learned that being a father was not about buying expensive things or giving motivational speeches. It was about being present. It was about listening. It was about knowing when to speak and when to simply sit in silence. He learned that Clara liked strawberry ice cream but hated chocolate, that she had recurring nightmares about dark tunnels, but that the light of a special star-shaped lamp helped her sleep, that she was shy in public but chatty when she felt safe, that she loved fantasy books and dreamed of being an illustrator. Daniel completely reorganized his life. He delegated responsibilities in his company. He hired trusted managers to handle the day-to-day, and he dedicated every afternoon to Clara. He took her to the park. They went to the library. They cooked culinary disasters together that ended in laughter and pizza orders. Daniel even learned to braid hair, badly but with effort, when Clara asked him for help before school. Isabel watched this change with a mixture of astonishment and caution. She wanted to believe it was real, but a part of her feared that Daniel would eventually get tired and return to his old life. One afternoon, while Clara was playing in the park, Isabel and Daniel sat on a nearby bench. You're doing a good job, she finally said. Daniel was surprised. Do you really think so? I see it. Clara is better. She smiles more. The nightmares are decreasing. And when she talks about you, Isabel paused. Her voice is full of pride. Something loosened in Daniel's chest. I want to ask you something, he said. Isabel tensed. What? I want to help you. Financially. I know you work 3 jobs to survive. Let me ease that burden. For Clara. I don't need your... No, Daniel interrupted. You don't need my money. But you need it for Clara, for her education, her therapy, her future. Don't do it for pride, Isabel. Do it for her. Isabel looked at him for a long moment. All right, she finally said, but on one condition. Which one? That you never treat her like a charity project. If you're going to be in her life, you're serious. Not halfway. Not when it suits you. All or nothing. Daniel extended his hand. All. Isabel shook it. And so, slowly, they formed. Something like a family. April 15th arrived with a sunny morning and a gentle breeze. Clara turned 13, and it was the first time Daniel could celebrate a birthday with his daughter. He had planned everything meticulously. He hired the best event organizers, reserved a luxury ballroom overlooking the harbor, ordered a 3-tier cake decorated with edible flowers, and invited all of Clara's classmates. But 2 days before, when he showed the plans to Clara, the girl turned pale, her fingers nervously intertwined, her gaze fixed on the marble floor of Daniel's office. Is something wrong? Daniel asked, confused by her reaction. It's too much, Clara murmured. I don't know half of my class. And that ballroom, it looks like a palace. I just wanted something small, something ours. Daniel felt like he had messed up again. After all these months, he still fell into the same mistakes, trying to impress with money instead of connecting with the heart. He knelt in front of her, taking her hands. "What did you want, little one? Tell me the truth." Clara bit her lip, hesitating. Finally, she looked up. "Can we go to the beach? Just the three of us? You, Aunt Isabel, and me, and maybe my friend Sophia. Bring snacks, play in the sand, watch the sunset. Like a normal family." The word normal resonated with Daniel in a strange way. He had never been normal. He had never wanted to be. But now, looking into his daughter's hopeful eyes, he understood that normal was exactly what she needed. Daniel cancelled everything. He returned the deposits, dismissed the organizers, and rented a small beach house in Montauk for the weekend. The morning of the birthday dawned with clear skies. The four of them, Daniel, Isabel, Clara, and Sophia, arrived at the beach before noon. Daniel, for the first time in decades, wore shorts and a simple t-shirt. No suits, no formalities. Isabel had prepared a giant potato omelette, salad, and a homemade strawberry cake that was slightly melting in the April sun. They spread blankets on the sand, improvised an umbrella with towels, and sat barefoot, their fingers sinking into the warm sand. Clara and Sophia ran towards the water, shouting when the cold waves touched their feet. Their laughter mixed with the sound of the sea, creating a symphony of pure happiness. Daniel watched them from the blanket, with a glass of white wine in his hand that he had barely touched. His gaze followed Clara's every movement, how she bent down to collect shells, how she laughed when Sophia splashed her, how the sun made her brown hair shine like liquid gold. "She's happy," Isabel said, sitting next to him. "I haven't seen her like this since before Sarah died." "She's a good girl," Daniel replied, feeling a lump in his throat. "She's your daughter," Isabel corrected him gently, "and every day she looks more like you, not just physically, in her way of thinking, of solving problems, of observing the world with that quiet intensity." Daniel swallowed. "I'm afraid of ruining it, of not being enough." Isabel looked at him with an expression that was half exasperation, half tenderness. "Daniel, you've been enough for months. You're here. That's all she needs. Presence, consistency, love." As the sun began to set, they lit the candles on the half-melted cake. Clara had her feet buried in the sand, a crown of flowers that Sophia had made for her with wild daisies, and a smile that lit up more than the golden sunset. "Make a wish," Daniel said as he brought the cake closer. Clara closed her eyes. The wind played with her hair. The sound of the waves was like a lullaby. She blew hard, extinguishing all the candles in one breath. When she opened her eyes, she was looking directly at Daniel. "It already came true," she simply said. "What did you wish for?" Sophia asked with childish curiosity. "I can't say or it won't come true," Clara replied with a mysterious smile. "But I can say this is the best birthday of my life." Daniel felt something inside him heal, a part that had been broken for 52 years without him knowing it. But healing is not a straight line. It is a winding path, full of setbacks and advances, of good days and terrible nights. 3 months after the birthday on the beach, Clara's nightmares returned with renewed strength. Worse than before, more vivid, more terrifying. Daniel received the call at 2 in the morning. Isabel, exhausted, on the verge of collapse. "I can't do this anymore," she admitted, her voice breaking. "She hasn't slept for 5 nights in a row. I don't sleep either. Screaming, crying, waking up trembling. I don't know what to do, Daniel. I thought the worst was over." 15 minutes later, Daniel was knocking on the apartment door. He hadn't even changed his pajamas. He had just put on pants and a jacket over his wrinkled t-shirt. Isabel received him with deep, dark circles and exhausted gratitude. Guilt shone in her eyes. "I have to work tomorrow. If I lose another day, I'll be fired. I can't afford it." "I'll take care of it," Daniel said firmly. "Go to sleep, I'll stay with her." Clara was huddled on the living room sofa, wrapped in a blanket, trembling even though the night wasn't cold. Her eyes were wide open, fixed on a spot on the wall, as if she saw something no one else could see. "Hi, little one," Daniel said softly, sitting next to her. Clara looked at him, and something in her expression softened slightly. But the fear was still there, palpable, like a third presence in the room. "I'm scared, Dad. I know. I can't sleep. When I close my eyes, I see the tunnel, the man, his hands getting closer, and this time I can't escape. He catches me. He drags me away, and I scream, but no one hears me. Not even you." The words tumbled out, as if she had been holding them in for days. Daniel felt his heart break, but that didn't happen. He said gently, moving closer, "In reality, you did escape. You were smart and brave, and I found you. I will always find you, Clara. Always." "How can you be sure?" she asked in a childish, vulnerable voice. "Because you are my daughter, and there is no place in this world, or in any dark tunnel, where I wouldn't look for you until I found you." Clara threw herself into his arms, sobbing. Daniel held her, rocking her gently as he had seen Isabel do, humming a melody he didn't know where it came from. "Do you know what I did when I was scared as a kid?" he asked after a while. Clara shook her head against his chest. "My mother taught me to count good things, one by one, like sheep, but better. Things that made me happy, that made me feel safe. Do you want to try?" Clara hesitated, but nodded. "Okay, I'll start," Daniel said. 1. You have Aunt Isabel, who loves you more than anything in the world and would do anything for you. Clara managed a weak smile. 2. You have an incredible talent for art. Your drawings are so beautiful that they will be in major galleries someday. A slightly bigger smile. 3. You have a father who just discovered he exists a few months ago and who would give his life to protect you, who will never, ever leave you alone again. Clara snuggled closer to him. 4. She whispered in a trembling voice. I have a dad who comes in the middle of the night when I'm scared. 5. Daniel continued, feeling his voice break. You are the bravest person I know, and every day you become stronger. Clara closed her eyes. Her breathing gradually calmed down. Synchronizing with Daniel's, he continued humming, stroking her hair, until he finally felt her body completely relax. She slept. Daniel stayed awake all night, holding her, making sure the nightmares didn't return. And when the sun began to filter through the windows, when Isabel appeared in the doorway with surprised eyes at having slept all night, Daniel simply nodded. She's fine, he whispered. Go to work. I'll stay today. And so he did. He cancelled all his meetings, delegated everything. Urgent, and spent the entire day with Clara. They watched silly movies. They drew together. They baked cookies that burned, but they ate anyway, laughing at the disaster. That night, when Clara went to bed in her own room, with Daniel sitting in a chair next to her, the girl took his hand. Dad, can you stay until I fall asleep? I can stay all night if you want. Really? Really? Clara smiled, closing her eyes with more confidence this time. I love you, Dad. And I love you, little one. More than words can express. And he stayed, all night, watching the gentle rhythm of her breathing, the occasional movement of her eyes under closed lids, the peace she had finally found in sleep. At dawn, Isabel entered silently and found Daniel asleep in the chair, his hands still intertwined with Clara's. She took a picture with her phone, not to share it, but to remember, to have proof that miracles do exist, and that love can heal even the deepest wounds. The following months brought significant changes. Dr. Carmen Rivera, Clara's psychologist, suggested that the girl needed more stability, a clearer routine to help her feel secure. Daniel made a decision that surprised everyone, even himself. He proposed that Clara live with him permanently, not just occasional visits, but that his house become her main home. The conversation with Isabel was delicate, full of mixed emotions. I don't want to take her away from you, Daniel said, sitting in the apartment kitchen while Clara was at school. But you work 3 jobs. You barely sleep, and Clara needs stability. I have a big house, staff who can help, and above all, I have time. I have completely reorganized my life to be with her. Isabel gripped her coffee cup so tightly that her knuckles turned white. She's my niece. I've raised her since she was 7 years old. I can't just hand her over. I'm not asking you to hand her over. I'm asking you to let me help you, to give Clara the best of both worlds. She'll live with me during the week close to her school with a stable routine, but on weekends, if she wants, she can stay here with you, and you can visit her whenever you want. Always. What if you get tired? What if you decide being a father is too much work? Fear shone in Isabel's eyes. Daniel looked at her directly. I won't get tired. That girl is the best thing that has ever happened to me. And yes, maybe I'm not perfect. Maybe I make mistakes every day. But I'm learning. And I'm not giving up. Ever. Isabel remained silent for a long time. Finally, she sighed. Let Clara decide. She's old enough to have a voice in this. That afternoon, when Clara came home from school, both adults sat down with her on the sofa. Clara, we have something to ask you, Daniel began. And I want you to be completely honest. There is no right or wrong answer. The girl looked at them with wide eyes, sensing the gravity of the moment. What is it? Would you like to live with me? Daniel asked directly. In my house, as your main home. You would have your own room, your own space to paint, you would be close to school, but you would still see Aunt Isabel all the time. She will always be your family. Clara blinked, processing. Would Aunt Isabel also come to live with you? Isabel gently shook her head. No, honey, I would stay here, but you could visit me whenever you wanted, and I would visit you. It would be different, but we would still be together. What if I don't want to? Clara asked in a small voice. What if I want to stay here? Then you stay here, Daniel replied without hesitation. This decision is yours, Clara. No one is forcing you. Clara looked at both of them. Then she looked around the small apartment that had been her home for years, the walls with her drawings taped up, the worn sofa where she snuggled with Isabel to watch movies, the small table where they did homework together. Can I think about it? She finally asked. All the time you need, Isabel said, hugging her. 3 days later, Clara gave her answer. She was nervous, fiddling with the edge of her t-shirt. I want to try it, living with Dad. But she looked at Isabel with teary eyes. Not because I don't love you, Auntie, but because I want to get to know him better. I want to know what it's like to have a dad every day. Is that wrong? Isabel had tears rolling down her cheeks, but she smiled. It's not wrong, my love. Not at all. I'm proud of you, and I'll be here whenever you need me. The move was gradual. First a few things, then more. Daniel had prepared not just a room for her, but an entire wing of the house. A bright bedroom overlooking the garden, an art studio with all the materials she could need, a small living room just for her, where she could read or study. Clara entered each room with wide eyes, touching everything with reverence, as if she feared it was a dream. Is all this for me? She asked in a trembling voice. All of it, Daniel confirmed. This is your home now. Clara, forever if you want. That first night in Daniel's mansion, Clara couldn't sleep, not out of fear, but because of the strangeness of so much quiet, so much space. She was used to the noise of the neighbors, the sound of cars in the street, the closeness of Isabel in the next room. At 2 in the morning, she gently knocked on Daniel's bedroom door. Dad, are you awake? Daniel immediately turned on the lamp, sitting up in bed. What's wrong, little one? Another nightmare? Clara shook her head. It's very quiet here and big, and I don't know, do you miss me in this big place? Daniel's heart melted. Come here, he said, making room in the bed. Clara climbed in, snuggling up next to him like she did when she was smaller. You know what? Daniel said. This house has been quiet and empty for years, and I never realized how lonely I was until you walked into my life. Now, when you're here, it feels like a real home. Really, really. And if the silence scares you, we can. Make noise. We can play music, laugh louder, invite Aunt Isabel over more often. We can make this house whatever you want it to be. Clara smiled against his chest. Can I sleep here tonight? You can sleep here every night if you want. She didn't, but knowing she could was enough. 1 year turned into 2. 2 turned into 3. Clara grew, not just in height, but in confidence. The nightmares spaced out until they became occasional shadows that no longer dominated her. At 15, Clara Miller was a young woman with artistic talent that had already gained regional recognition. Her work had been selected for a youth exhibition at the Brooklyn Museum, an honor reserved for the most promising emerging artists. Daniel was prouder than words could express. The night of the opening, the whole family was present. Isabel, radiant in a new dress that Daniel had insisted on buying her. Sophia, Clara's best friend, who was now practically part of the family. And Daniel, in a dark suit, but no... Tausi, Clara had told him he looked too formal, and he had learned to listen to her. Clara's artwork hanging in the main gallery was impressive, a self-portrait where she emerged from dark shadows into a golden light, with two hands extended to guide her. A delicate woman's hand, a larger man's hand. The title of the piece, From the Tunnel to the Light. When it was her turn to speak in front of the attendees, art critics, students, onlookers, Clara took the microphone with hands that barely trembled. "This painting represents my journey," she said, her voice clear and firm. "We all have dark moments, moments where we feel lost, scared, completely alone. But we also have light. Sometimes that light comes from unexpected places, from people we didn't know we needed, or that we didn't know existed." She paused, looking for Daniel in the audience. "My father found me when I was lost in the darkness. He took me out of a literal tunnel, and also a figurative one. But in doing so, he also found himself. I think that's how true love works. It doesn't just save one, it saves everyone. Love is reciprocal. It is healing. It is the light we need when the world turns dark." Applause filled the room. Daniel had to discreetly wipe his eyes with the back of his hand. Isabel was openly crying without trying to hide it. When the event ended, the three of them walked along the Hudson River walkway. It was a warm June night, with stars shining over the city and the breeze bringing the smell of salt and wild jasmine. "Do you realize that exactly 3 years ago we were in the hospital?" Isabel said. "I thought you would never get over that the scars would be permanent." Clara took her hand. "The scars are still there, Auntie, but they don't hurt as much anymore. And I learned that scars are not weaknesses. They are evidence that we survived, that we were stronger than what tried to break us." They walked in silence for a while, simply enjoying the moment. Daniel in the middle, holding the hands of the two most important women in his life. "Dad," Clara said eventually. "Yes, little one? Thank you for looking for me that day, for staying all the other days, for being patient when the nightmares returned, for never giving up on me." Daniel stopped in the middle of the walkway. He knelt down in front of her, although they were now almost the same height, and looked into her eyes. "Clara, finding you was the easy part. The hard part was living 52 years without knowing. I was missing something essential to be complete. But now I know, and I don't plan to waste a single day more of the ones I have left. You are my daughter, my pride, my light, and nothing, absolutely nothing in this world is more important to me than you." Clara hugged him tightly, and Daniel felt that everything, every mistake of the past, every lost moment, every year of involuntary absence had been worth it to reach this precise instant. Because here, on this walkway, with these two extraordinary people, he finally understood what it meant to have a home. Not one made of walls and ceilings, but one built with intertwined hands, shared laughter, tears wiped away together, and unconditional love. And that, he understood with absolute clarity, was his true fortune, his only legacy that mattered. 5 years after that night at the museum, Clara was 20 years old and studying fine arts at college. Her talent was no longer just a promise, it was a confirmed reality. She had sold several works, had a gallery representing her, and had been accepted for an exchange program in Florence. Daniel, now 59, had completely transformed his life. His company was still prosperous, but it no longer defined him. He had created the Clara Foundation, dedicated to helping missing children and victims of trauma. He financed therapy, educational programs, safe shelters. The money he once used to build buildings now built lives. One Sunday afternoon, while they were eating, together on the terrace of the house, a weekly tradition they never broke, Clara made an announcement. "I've decided something important." Both Daniel and Isabel put down their forks, paying complete attention. "I'm going to accept the program in Florence, but only if you two promise to visit me. And if you promise that this," she gestured between the three of them, "never changes." "Nothing can change this," Isabel said firmly. "Not distance, not time, not anything. We are family. A family that chose to be one," Daniel added. "And those are the strongest ones." Clara smiled, that smile that was now frequent, genuine, full of life. "You know, Dad, sometimes I think about what would have happened if you hadn't seen the poster that day, if you had kept walking, if you had never found me." "Don't allow yourself to think that," Daniel shook his head. "That was never going to happen. I believe that somehow, on some level I don't understand, we were destined to find each other. Maybe your mother, wherever she is, made sure of it. Clara touched the small necklace she always wore, one with Sarah's photo inside. Sometimes I feel like she's here, watching me grow up, watching how you became the man she hoped you would be. Tears were now freely running down the cheeks of all three of them, not tears of sadness, but of complete healing, of closed circles, of fulfilled loves. Your mother taught me that true love is not possession, Daniel said softly. It is freedom. It is allowing the people you love to fly, knowing they will always have a place to return to. So go to Florence, Clara. Fly as high as you can. Conquer the world with your art. But always remember, this house, this love, this place where three imperfect people became family, this is yours forever. Clara stood up, walked to her father, and hugged him with all the strength her arms allowed. I love you, Dad. Thank you for saving me. No, little one, Daniel whispered against her hair. You saved me. That night, after Isabel left, and Clara went upstairs to pack her things for the trip, Daniel remained alone on the terrace. He took out an old crumpled photograph from his wallet, him and Sarah on the beach, 30 years ago, when the world seemed infinite and love was enough reason to exist. Thank you, he whispered to the image, to the memory, to the kind ghost of what was. Thank you for giving me the greatest blessing of my life, even though I didn't know it then. You took good care of our daughter. Now it's my turn. A gentle breeze moved the leaves of the garden trees, and for a moment, Daniel felt something inexplicable, a warm presence, a silent approval, as if Sarah was finally at peace. The days leading up to Clara's departure were a whirlwind of emotions. Daniel tried to stay strong, but every time he saw her packing her brushes, her notebooks, her dreams turned into suitcases, he felt a knot in his chest. The morning of the farewell at the airport, Isabel cried openly. Clara did too, although she tried to smile through the tears. It's only a year, Clara said, hugging her aunt, and I'm going to call all the time, and you're going to visit me, right? We'll be there for Christmas, Isabel promised, the three of us together in Florence. When it was time to hug Daniel, Clara clung to him as if she were a small child again, like that first time in the dark tunnel when two lost souls found each other. Don't forget about me while I'm gone, Clara said in a choked voice. Daniel held her firmly, kissing her forehead. Impossible. You are the best thing that has ever happened to me, Clara. And no matter where you are in the world, you will always be my little one, my light, my reason for having existed all these years. Dad, Clara sobbed, promise me you're going to take care of yourself, that you're going to be happy, that you won't work so much, that you're going to go out, that you're going to live, not just exist. I promise you, but you also promise me something. What? That you're going to shine, that you're going to be as incredible as I know you can be, that you're going to paint works that make people cry, that make them feel, that change the world even a little bit, like you changed mine. Clara nodded, unable to speak. They hugged one last time, long and hard, two hearts beating in unison, father and daughter, united by invisible threads that no distance could break. When Clara finally crossed the boarding gate, she turned around one last time. Daniel and Isabel were there standing together, waving goodbye. An improbable family built on rubble and second chances, but as real as the love that united them. The sun began to set over New York, painting the sky with shades of gold and rose. In the distance, the Hudson shone like liquid crystal. And as Daniel drove back home with Isabel in the passenger seat, both silent but united in their shared love for Clara, he understood something with absolute clarity. Life had given him a second chance, an opportunity that came late, wrapped in tragedy and mystery, but that arrived exactly when they both needed it. He needed to learn to love unconditionally. Clara needed to be found, protected, seen, and together they had learned that true love is not measured in shared years, but in the intensity with which every moment is lived, that being a father was not a title earned by biology, but by daily choice, by being present, by wiping away tears, by celebrating triumphs, by being the voice that says, I'm proud of you when the world seems dark, because in the end that's what matters. Not money, nor success, nor power, only love, the love that persists through the lost decades, the love that heals the deepest wounds, the love that transforms men into fathers and strangers into family, the love that, as Sarah wrote in the letters she left for Clara, and that she finally read when she turned 18, is the only force in the universe capable of changing the past by giving it meaning, of transforming pain into wisdom, and of turning darkness into light. And as he drove through the streets of his city, Daniel Sterling, the man who once had everything and had nothing, finally understood the most important lesson of his life. True wealth is not measured in properties or bank accounts. It is measured in shared hugs, in tears wiped away together, in laughter that resonates in the walls of a home filled with love. It is measured in a girl who was found in the darkness and who now shone with her own light, ready to illuminate the world. And that light, that beautiful and eternal light, had been ignited the day a father found his daughter and a daughter found her father, and both discovered that they were never truly lost. They were just waiting for the perfect moment to find each other. And now, as Clara flew toward new horizons, and Daniel returned to a house that was no longer empty, because the love that lived there remained in every corner, in every memory, in every promise of reunion, they both knew a fundamental truth. True love does not need to be physically present to exist. It lives in the heart, in the thoughts, in every beat that says, "You are with me always." And that love, built on rubble and second chances, on dark tunnels and found lights, was forever.